Shalom uvracha from Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. It's a great honor to study together with you. Our continued study of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of the fathers. Tonight, with the help of God, we studied chapter 2, Mishna Yutet, Perek Bet, the 19th Mishnah in the second chapter. I've been announcing, especially in the second chapter, to make sure that if you're following the text, make sure that in your edition it's also Mishnah 19, because there are different numbering systems for these Mishnayot. Tonight's teaching is the teaching of Rabbi El-Azar, who teaches, Rabbi El-Azar Omer, Hevei Shakud L'lmod Torah. Be very diligent in the study of Torah. Vida ma shetashov laepikuros, so that you will be able to properly reply to the attacks, to the questions, to the situations that arise in debates and discussions with heretics. It means, if you don't study Torah diligently, you will not be able to maintain your position. When you're discussing Torah, when you're discussing Torah with people who are trying to use the texts to distort truth and to try to prove various categories of falsehood based on the very text that you're discussing. Hevei shakud l'lmod Torah. Be careful in your study of Torah. Some people, they try to avoid any kind of discussions with people outside of the faith. They feel it's sufficient just to discuss Torah within the community, and if they're ever approached by someone who has not connected to Torah observance, they have very little to say to them. It would seem from the cursory reading of our text that at least Rabbi Elazar held that it is important, it is seemingly a requirement. V'da ma shetashov laepikuros, and be diligent in your study, so that when you have to reply, someone comes and says, "Oh, doesn't this text prove A, B, and C?" And if you never study the text, if you never looked at the text, if you never analyze the text, you will not be able to answer the claims of the Epikuros. Therefore, whenever one studies a text, whenever one studies Torah, it doesn't matter which section of Torah, especially the sections of Torah that are constantly quoted by groups that are trying to convince Jews that the very scriptures that are very great, holy Tanakh, indicates various levels, for instance, of Christological argumentation, and try to use texts of Torah to validate positions which are against the Torah. And so if a person is studying, let's say Isaiah 53, just as an example of Isaiah 53 being quoted many tens of thousands of times, if not more, by people who are trying to convince everyone that Isaiah 53 is clearly a reference to the Christian Messiah. If you don't study Isaiah 53, then how much do we have to say? What do you have to say about Isaiah? If you don't, Hinei Yaskil Avdi, what is my servant? Who is my servant? Who is the topic? Who is the characters being spoken there? And if you don't see in the text that whoever it is, it's spoken about someone who will Yir'ez Zera, Ya'arich Yami, who will have children and will have length of days, seemingly clearly not a reference to the individual that this text is connected to by all these missionaries who try so hard especially to snatch Jewish. If the missionaries want to take people away from idolatry and bring them a little closer, well, that could be perhaps, maybe it's in the right direction at least. But to take Jews away from Jewish faith, and it's so painful, and we consider it to be so sinful. And the answer has to be Evei Shakud L'Lmod Torah, all aspects of Torah. The rabbis in the Talmud itself speak about those who were so excited when it says in the Torah, Na'aseh Adam, Na'aseh, we shall make man. Oh, we shall make man. Seemingly implies a duality. Seemingly implies more than one God. Not I shall make man, we shall make man. And the rabbis deal with that. But when a person studies, they have to pick up these nuances, and I think it's the requirement of Torah teachers and Torah students based on the teachings of Rabbi Elazar, not to gloss over it, but to analyze these arguments. V'da ma shetshov laepikuros. If there's a yeshiva student, may all the yeshiva students be blessed, who never heard of the concept that there is a claim of a virgin birth. They never heard about a virgin birth. So you could say, well, maybe it's insignificant, relatively speaking. But if there are countless numbers of people all over the world, and especially those who want to bring these teachings into the Jewish communities, God forbid, then a person has to be fluent in biblical literature, each one according to his or her own style of study. There is an approach. We have a neighbor here, 2 buildings away. I don't know if he wants his name to be quoted about this story, but I'll tell you the story anyway. He's a former priest who converted to Judaism, lives here in our neighborhood in Ma'alot, and he told me that he used to argue diligently. He used to argue at length with many Jews who had left the faith and accepted foreign religions. And at a certain point, years ago, he said he stopped discussing scriptures. He stopped discussing the analysis of the Pesukim. For he was convinced that that's not the motivating factor that convinces or leads an individual. It's not like they studied the text and suddenly they had a question on textual style or usage. And he told me many stories. He said his current position is that he speaks much more to the emotional level of the choice rather than to the intellectual level. I said, what about intellectuals? He said, in his widespread, he's greatly experienced in this area. He said that's not what it's about. Nevertheless, there seems to be a requirement. There seems to be a requirement, Somebody once told me that they were approached by a missionary who tried to prove the Trinity from the very sentence that speaks about the oneness of God. Shema Yisrael, and then there are 3 references to God. Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem, Echad. And he was baffled. He never heard of Hashem. So I said, well, you notice the 2 of those words are the same, and that in the concept of the Trinity, they don't speak about 2 of them being the same as the third. It should have used 3 words, not 2 words. Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem. But that's not the point. The point is, I think that part of studying has to be maybe within the context of yeshiva study. That's the purest place to bring it up. Maybe whenever there's a text, and there are many such texts, whenever there's an idea, and there are many such ideas, maybe that should be included in the study so that the person knows, exactly what is the proper response. There is an attitude that I'm not interested in discussing a textual argumentation with you, and I can understand that. Although it does say here, Dam Ashet Tashiv, maybe if the Tashiv won't make a difference anyway, if no matter how many texts you quote. No matter how many times Shetashim sounds, they maybe should answer. But, surely a person who doesn't feel that their answers will make a difference, maybe they shouldn't. I don't want to claim that this Mishnah is limited to one scope of an epikoros. Many forms of epikorosim. The kind of people who don't believe in the validity of Torah, the kind of people who don't believe in God, the kind of people who don't believe that God is running an active world, or that God punishes people that violate Torah, reward people. Many forms of epikorosim. And maybe, as Rabbi Hirsch writes in his commentary on the book of Tehillim, he says that everybody has questions. Everybody has questions. Our tradition encourages questions. The opening statements in Torah Ba'al Peh, in the main writings of our oral tradition, are questions. Me'ei matai korin et shma ba'aravin. Question. Tana hechikai. They're questions. We're always asking questions. We encourage people to ask questions. The whole Seder night is Kidei Sheyish'alu Atinokot, so that the children should ask questions. We encourage children to ask questions. I think it's a lie. There are certain people who want to suggest that in religious Jewish institutions they don't allow people to ask questions. I don't think that's true. I think we encourage questions. And perhaps the Shetashov Laefikoros, I once read somewhere that maybe the Epikoros is the person himself or herself. The simple reading, of course, is that you're studying Torah, and outside, somewhere in the outside world, there is an Epikoros. No, maybe you are the Epikoros. Maybe each of us has an Epikoros in us. And maybe it's not just the questions of others. Each person has questions. Each being, each soul has questions. And maybe it's the requirement to find the answer to our questions. There is a verse in the book of Tehillim which says, in many communities it says, this psalm is said every Shabbat morning in the Pesukei, the Zimra section of Shabbat. And in this sense, although most people do not translate this way, I would like to study the way Rav Hirsch writes his commentary on chapter 19 of Psalms, where it says, Torat Hashem Timima Mishivat Nafesh. Mishivat Nafesh. Most people, I think, that translate this text, translate Mishivat Nafesh as restoring the soul. The Torah of Hashem is perfect, complete. Mishivat Nafesh, it restores the soul. Rav Hirsch seems to say that the word Mishivat has something to do with the word for answering, like from the word Teshuvah. And he says that the soul has many questions. Everybody has many questions. Da'amash Tashiv. The word Tashiv is the same word that's used in Psalm 19. So if a person is interested in finding answers, Torah Hashem Timima, the complete study of Torah, the all-encompassing level of study of Torah, will bring about Mishivat Nafesh, will bring about all the answers that the soul is seeking. I heard Rav Shlomo Kalabach of blessed memory teaching on more than one occasion. He said, half the world walks around with questions. Unfortunately, they don't have answers. He said the other half of the world walks around with answers. They don't have any questions. And he says that maybe the perfected state of humanity will take place when the people with the questions will start talking to the people with the answers. Maybe if we could encourage true Torah study, maybe if we could see the light of God in all of the Torah, if we could see the truth and the reality shining within that great light, maybe then we will be able to da mashat tashiv Laepikoros. Thank you so much for listening. We'll continue, I hope, this Mishnah next time. Shalom.